Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and I got a bit of a different setup going on, and that's because I'm using Windows today, ladies and gentlemen. You might be like, why would I subject myself to a man-made disaster like this? Well, yesterday I made a video where I said the Xbox was gonna die tonight. And this morning, yeah, the Xbox store is basically dead. I fired up the system, logged into my account, and lo and behold, what you're about to see is the most depressing main menu screen to any game console recently. All you basically get is the option to pick between what you have downloaded, open the disk tray, maybe close it. You can go to your friends list, invite people to a Xbox Live party, which still surprisingly works, and there is a settings tab. I don't think they're ever going to get rid of that. So clearly we know that the Xbox storefront died, and with it a whole bunch of history also went along with it. Now, I mentioned games like Fortress Craft and Murder Miners, and a whole bunch of those games like a Pimp RPG where effectively you got to play these Xbox Live indie games. Yeah, those are gone. Unless you have a hacked Xbox just sitting around right now, you can download, I believe, around 2,823 actual Xbox Live indie games and give them a try on a hackable Xbox. Now, of course, I would recommend not doing this because that would be, from my understanding, piracy. And as you all know, that is a serious cardinal sin, and I do not promote any of that. But, ladies and gentlemen, to go on further than that, I did decide to purchase the last game on the Xbox 360 in my history before the store was shut down. Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I wish I could show you some gameplay of it, but surprisingly I forgot that downloading games back before the PlayStation 4 meant in some cases downloading 7 gigs of the launcher for the game, and then you have to download like 4 install packs. So that's not happening this week, okay? Maybe I might get to it at some point. Maybe I might try giving it a try. But at this point, it's a lot easier for me mentally to just emulate it under the PlayStation emulator and even play online with the boys through the power of emulation. I know, we live in a wild, wild world. But ladies and gentlemen, now that the system is dead, what can you do? Well, we can get to emulating it. Now, I basically talked about this one emulator before, Xenia. Now, closer it is on Xenia.jp, and they call it the Xbox 360 Research Emulator. But let's be completely real here, okay? People are using this to play old school Xbox games, and thankfully, as of today, it is still actively being updated. One of the last updates was June 23rd, 2024. Now, this is not as easy to use as the PlayStation emulator, okay? Which at this point, I think even my grandmother could probably figure out. This requires a little more understanding of, I guess, modifying like the configuration files or just using the emulator, and it's not as user intuitive, I'll just say. Now, there's been one update that came out called the Xenia Manager. So if you're somebody that absolutely cannot fuck around with modifying configuration files because you're too cool for that, then this might be worth a download, okay? Now again, everything I ever recommend on these videos is entirely at your own risk, okay? If you get infected by super malware, I'm not taking any ownership on that. But to give you an idea on like the Xenia Manager, I have it right over here, and of course as you hit this little Xenia Manager button, the user interface is as God would intend, a place where you can add whatever game you wanted and modify your settings with serious ease. So things like picking what audio system you want. Well, you got that option right there. Do you like full screen games? I know I do. You can slap that on, baby. Letterbox? No, not in this household. Get that shit out of here. What display resolution do you like? Do you want 720p? Or do you want to go all the way up to 1080p? And I will say, if you have a gaming computer and you watch this channel, you can easily run this at 1080p. It's not going to be that big of an issue. Frame rate limits? You can go all the way down to 0 if you wanted to. Remember, the human eye can't see past 30 according to some Redditors. Now again, I'm not scared of a little configuration terminal every once in a while, so I'm going to show you what this looks like here. Now the best part about this Canary emulator, or the Xenia emulator, is that it is completely portable. And the best part about it is, like other emulators where you need to get access to like BIOS files or firmware files which put legality into question, you do not need to download anything copyrighted, from my knowledge, just to get this going. So ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea about how this stuff works, all right, I'm going to actually show you a special version of this emulator where you can go and experience old school Xbox 360 user interfaces. Now, if it's one thing that's seriously weird about this is the amount of graphical corruption errors. So yeah, back in the day, it used to be a very simple user interface. You go to the Xbox Live tab to play with the boys. You go to it's actually calculating multiple presses. It is in fact a very buggy user interface. You go to the Games tab and you can make your gamer profiles, go to the Xbox Live Arcade demos, and of course you've got the Media tab, so if you wanted to watch movies on your Xbox, it was entirely there. Now obviously beyond any of this, none of these features really do work. I mean, you can go to the create profile setting and it's not going to work. You can go to the Xbox Live Arcade, you can access certain things here, but it really has no connection, and again, it's barely being emulated. So if you go to the unrecognized disk, there is no disk present, it is just a buggy user interface. Oh boy, oh hot damn, this is my jam. This is what the pre-NXC version actually looked like. And of course, they've got some standard get started tips, you want to figure out how to use your Xbox, kiddos? This is it. Somehow this is a more functioning user interface than anything that I've seen. Oh, the guest has crashed. As soon as you try to access Kinect, it freaks the fuck out. Now, to give an idea about this emulator, the reason why I'm actually also talking about it is I actually have managed to finish a couple games through it. Now, for instance, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite games on the 360, which is locked to that system, is Lost Odyssey. Now, thankfully, due to the actual emulation, you can actually get this thing up and running and play it all the way through, all 4 discs, by the way. Yeah, this game shipped on 4 discs for the Xbox 360. And all of them are completely playable, from my knowledge. Now, firing up the actual game over here, you get to the actual main menu screen, actually updates your entire profile, and you can actually load up the game as normal. So while you're missing the Xbox user interface, it's not the end of the world, the games are playable. So here I'm actually 3 hours and 39 minutes into an actual playthrough on disc 1, and you can see it load up just fine. The only thing that I find is an issue with some of these games is obviously being an emulator, you're probably going to have some graphical corruption issues. That's not going to be shocking. So here you can actually see me walk around, and if you're looking at the very top, you can see things known as patches applied. So we'll actually get to that in a little bit as we switch out the games. But yeah, the Xbox 360, a lot of those key landmark games are pretty much emulatable. So if you've got a PC sitting at home, a Windows computer, I've tried this underneath Linux and it's not entirely perfect. Yeah, it actually works really well amongst everything. So you can see me walk around the area and it does actually run at 60 frames per second. It's not terribly difficult to get these Xbox 360 games up and running anymore. If you have a halfway decent gaming computer, you too can play some of these actual games. Yes, they actually put a stealth action segment in a fucking JRPG. And I always hate it when JRPGs have any of this nonsense to begin with. Now, when it comes to patches in a lot of these emulators, usually they have a GUI, but since this is a pretty rough emulator to be getting used to, not exactly beginner friendly, they have a special folder called Patches, where if you go to it, you can see a whole bunch of actual patches for various games. Now, to give a quick understanding, one of the patches for games that I recently modified was Sonic Unleashed. Now, typically they'll have versions like Sonic Unleashed TU2, Sonic Unleashed.patch. Depending on which version of the game you have, whether it be updated or not, you have to actually modify these files. So you open them up in Notepad, and you can see very carefully over here, yeah, these actual patches, so for instance 60 frames per second, all you necessarily have to do is change these values from false to true. For instance, do you want that resolution upgraded from 880 by 720 to an actual 720p resolution? Change that from false all the way to true. And again, it depends on what you want enabled. So if you want certain graphical features gone, because clearly you want to upgrade the frame rate or up the frame rate in some capacity, then you can disable things that typically would be burdensome on the system. Or if they're causing graphical artifacts, some people have probably made a patch that fixes that shit anyways. Well, it's got the video loading up, presented by Sega, so clearly all the videos seem to work pretty well. And I didn't just want to show you this emulator for no reason and just start off at the beginning. Usually those aren't great tests. But to give you an idea, I've probably played the game around 5, maybe 6 hours, and I made it through several locations in the game. The Earth's opened up. But for instance, if you want to load up a location like Spagonia, or I think later on there's this one location, Mazuai, you can actually go right to it and just go to the village, or you can just select a stage if you want it. For my case, I'm just going to go to the stage, and everything actually loads up pretty well, so clearly since it's an emulator, it works. So yeah, while Team Sonic will never port Sonic Unleashed, which is genuinely one of the better Sonic games to exist on that generation, they'll never actually end up porting it to the PC. But yeah, if you want to play it, it's right here, ladies and gentlemen, and it works pretty fucking well. You know, the fact that you can play this so goddamn well is just, it's actually a testament to how beautiful emulation is. A lot of these games will never actually show up on PC, but for a lot of people who just want to play stuff like Sonic Unleashed somehow again, you have the option to play these games underneath Xenia. And from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thing about this emulator over the PlayStation one is for this specific game, I'm not even joking, something about it is, I believe, pretty taxing on our PCS3, so you actually need a pretty strong computer to run this on the PlayStation 3 emulator. But with Xenia, I'm pretty sure you can get this thing running on the Steam Deck if you really wanted to, right? Provided the Steam Deck doesn't have graphical issues that come from its renderer itself. Now, one of the games that is genuinely locked to the Xbox that I think many people can agree is one of the games that ultimately matters the most is Gears of War. Now, as somebody that is a Gears of War fan, when you talk about Gears of War games on the PC, you probably only have the option to play Gears 1, Gears of War 4, and Gears of War 5. That basically leaves two of the biggest entries in the franchise, Gears of War 2, 3, and in fact, even Judgment, pretty much on the cutting room floor. So thankfully, with the power of emulation, if you've got a halfway decent PC, you too can play some good old-fashioned Gears of War 2 right now on your system. And of course, it's not just Gears 2 you can play. The fact that Epic Games decided to actually put this game with some level of bot support allows you to play a lot of its multiplayer front with actual bots. So you don't need to have Xbox Live. You can play the multiplayer, you can get a taste of it without actually having to connect online. Which, granted, there's limitations on how good the bots are, but at this point, beggars can't be choosers. I barely can find any active players on the actual Xbox Live front with Gears of War 2 as it is. Let's load up some ruins right now, dude. Let's get a Carmine in here. Let's get the old Lancer. And I've never really personally tried split screen on this, just because I've had issues with like a build from a year ago. But I believe if you have two Xbox controllers, then you can actually play this with your friends. So if you want to get some split screen action going, this might be it. Which at the time, dude, I'll be real, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, that was a period where split screen gaming absolutely was dominating a lot of people. Couch co-op was a thing. Nowadays, as sad as it is, not so much. Now, of course, one thing that you're noticing over here is there are some genuine graphical issues, like that lightning wasn't exactly that crazy. And if you're noticing something about the frame rate, it is running at 30. There is a patch to change it all the way to 60, but I just usually keep these games running at their frame rate. Sometimes because I've had issues with these games having like logic problems, and I just genuinely want to play these games for a bit at a time. I don't necessarily care too much about 60 frames. I believe now it'll work just fine. And a big benefit is, as much of a dislike as I have for Microsoft with their somewhat recent practices, the fact that Xbox Live actually has, or Xbox One and Series X, have a really, really decent backwards compatibility program. I believe you can play this game at 60 frames per second on the Series X and the Xbox One X. I believe even the Series S, if I'm not mistaken. So if you wanted to play some of these Xbox 360 games with the best benefits possible, it might entirely be worth investing in an actual Xbox Series console. So here we go. I actually did unlock the actual frame rate, and I did manage to apply some of the extra patches that fixed up some of the issues. And yeah, it does actually run at fucking 60 frames per second pretty goddamn well. So if you don't want to shell out for the actual Xbox Series system for emulating this old gem, then you can absolutely get the Xenia emulator and play it like a real Chad right now, dude. It's like infinitely way more fun to play the game this way. Jesus Christ, it's like a night and day difference trying to play it. God damn. Oh, it's like actually having control for once. Oh shit, I fucking missed. Ooh, get the old torque bow right in the, right in the fucking chest. Boom! I was about to stick it right in the rectum, but it didn't actually play that way. Well, oh, get that. Oh, I give the one behind it. Oh, shit. Now, of course, speaking of actual, games as well, one can actually fire up Red Dead Redemption 1 and play it. Now, prior to the Switch version of the game, This was probably the best way to actually emulate Red Dead Redemption 1 because compared to like the PlayStation emulator still to this day, this actually is hands down smooth. It runs properly at 60 frames. You can actually play it all the way to the end, even with that zombie DLC as well too. Now obviously you probably want to get the PlayStation version if you want to play online, which you absolutely can with your friends through RPCN. But in the actual Xbox 360 emulator, if you just wanted to play the single player version of the game, this might be the best way to do it, especially if you have one of those handheld gaming computers like the Legion Go or whatever. You too can play Red Dead Redemption the right way on your actual handheld, and chances are it'll run pretty well. Now obviously you're seeing some stuttering over here, but that is primarily because I don't have a lot of those 60 FPS patches running, and typically with these renderers, the first time you actually load up a game like I did on this specific system, you will come across some actual shader compilation hitching. That's generally what will happen. But after like I would say about 30 minutes of play, your experience, especially with an open world game like this, will probably harmonize. Obviously as you go to newer locales, experience newer people, you might come across more micro stutters, but that'll be what they are, just micro stutters. So yeah, otherwise this is a totally playable version of the game on the PC. And that is until Rockstar decides to release it over on the PC. And such marks the end of a little Xbox 360 emulation video. I kind of wanted to showcase just how fun it really is and how easy it actually has become. There's been a whole lot of games that have unfortunately been lost to time memoriam. And you know, unlike the Sony side of things and even Nintendo, Microsoft does, however, do a pretty good job at doing decent amounts of backwards compatibility if you have a modern Xbox device, to the point where you don't even need to really pay anything extra. Stick some of those supported CDs in, and you can actually play classic Xbox 360 games or even classic original Xbox games on a newer system, provided, of course, they're under support. But this is a video for people who don't necessarily have an Xbox system and just want to play games that even Microsoft doesn't support through backwards compatibility right underneath on their system. And again, a lot of it is to basically really hype up the Xenia production team, the development team that is behind this emulator as well. Those guys and gals are some of the most awesome people keeping one of the best gaming consoles alive on the market for people to actually play a lot of the classic games they grew up playing. So whether it be Fable, whether it be Gears of War, whether it be Halo, if you just wanted to play a version of it where you got the entire experience, menus, missing content, and all, instead of, you know, purchasing the Master Chief Collection, which may not have every single thing or feel locked down, this is a great option for you. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike, do dislike it. I am out.